big news out of Google in AI. They have released Gemini 2.5, their very first reasoning model that is blowing people out of the water. Just as far as the benchmarks, it's essentially crushing everybody, which is really impressive. We'll be demoing it. We'll be talking about it. Connor has done a deep dive and, of course, as always, gone viral on LinkedIn talking about this. So there's a lot to dig into. But I guess, Connor, what was the most impressive thing that you saw with Gemini 2.5?
Okay, Jaeden, listen, real talk here. The most impressive thing was that OpenAI again managed to like trump them. The fact that it came out and all of a sudden OpenAI starts like dropping all its image generation stuff, which sort of like buried a little bit the fact that Gemini 2.5 Pro is incredibly powerful. So now all of a sudden they have all this reasoning, the reasoning tools built into this. It's also like multimodal and everything else. But the thing that sort of really blew me away right off the bat was just how much it surpassed. I'm not a big benchmarks guy, but it just really surpassed everybody by quite a bit on these benchmarks. And these benchmarks are important because this is how real people out in the world are using it. So again, most important thing, it's a thinking model. It's obviously analyzing like, all this information and drawing conclusions and incorporating all this text and nuance and everything like that. And all this, the way it does this is through these reasoning models, is all this obviously reinforcement learning, but also that chain of thought, right? Which if you remember how reasoning models are done, right? The first ones kind of came out from ChatGPT. And essentially what it did was it essentially built in, this is overly simplistic, but just for our audience out there, it essentially built in what we call chain of thought into each prompt, which means how we used to say, okay, take a deep breath, think through this step by step, all that sort of stuff. Now reasoning models actually do that. And the fact that Gemini is doing that with all of these, it's sort of like as natively integrated into Gemini 2.5 Pro, is huge. The other big thing is just the multi-modality, right? Like this is just cool because it just allows AI, the AI system essentially to process and then I guess like integrate, right? All these like multiple types of data, right? So you have like text, you have images, you have audio, stuff like that, all simultaneously. And if you think about what this does, it's huge for accuracy, for just like a more natural interaction, all that kind of stuff. But essentially it makes it way more versatile for really complex tasks, things like that. And that's what reasoning models are so good at. So the thing that I get really excited about, Jaeden, and then I'll toss it over to you to kind of like get your thoughts on this, is that, look, Google's not flashy. Okay, they're just not. I mean, ChatGPT every single time comes out with like something like really cool. Gemini drops something and then they're like, look at Sora or look at this new image generator. But the reality is also that with something like Google, people actually need to use this for work and for enterprise and for everything else. And the fact that they are building out these models, which are insanely powerful, are actually probably, not even probably, definitely going to have more real world applications for enterprise and everything else. So Google these days, remember they had a rough 2023 and even a rough 2024 to about for the first half or so. But now Google is really this incredible workhorse. They built a really, really strong model, which is generally seen as probably the most powerful model. And just for everyday life, Jaeden, that feels really significant, right?
100%. Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I mean, as I've just been kind of playing with it, it does what you'd expect with you can essentially show it what it's been thinking. I said, what's the best time of year to buy and sell a house in Arizona? It's starting to get hot here in Arizona. So these are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Is it reached 98 degrees yesterday? Why? I don't know. It's March. I thought, nope, guess not. So anyways, it'll break down all of its thinking. This is what you're seeing out of Grok, out of OpenAI, out of a lot of these players are kind of doing this thinking, and it will break down, obviously, all thanks to DeepSeek, who kind of pioneered the breaking down their thought process.
Yep.
ChatGPT might have had the first model that did this. They broke down the thought process, which is really useful because you can actually understand how it's getting to its conclusions. And then it will spit out exactly what it is doing. Now, one thing that was interesting, and I'm not sure if it was a bug, because they still say 2.5 Pro experimental. Google is like highly concerned about risk. So in its response that it spits out to me, at the top of the screen, it still says tool _code, print Google search queries, best time to like it. Yeah. Anyways, it looks like it's got like this HTML at the very top of it, which is kind of funny to me. But it does show that it's sort of like running code essentially to figure out some of these queries that you're giving it. So I think it's, obviously funny, and eventually they'll probably pull it out so they don't accidentally throw code snippets at the top of your response. But does show they are doing some pretty complex things to actually get you the results that are really good. I'm pretty interested in this. And then when you get down to it, it's gotten great results for me. The best time to sell a house is between March and May. This is considered prime selling season in Arizona. The weather's really nice, and it's not lying here in this result, by the way, because everybody comes here. I know I complained that it was 98 degrees yesterday. It kind of actually fluctuates for the next couple months. After May, it is just way too hot. If you come between like May and October, you'll never return to Arizona, I think. And then I think, yeah, so everything kind of slows down. If you want to buy a house, yeah, it's probably in the winter between December and February, the best time to buy. So, anyways, I think it nailed that. It looked at obviously a lot of like models and prediction stuff. It also generates images. I got it to make the Grand Canyon. I tried to upload an image of myself and have it put me in front of the Grand Canyon the same way you do with ChatGPT. I'm not sure if it just had a glitch. I could try it again, but it didn't work the first time I attempted it. Overall, I think this model is getting really good. It's going to give you good responses and results. The reason why I feel like I'm maybe a little bit less hyped about it is it like slightly beats a bunch of models on benchmarks, but it's still pretty much doing what a bunch of models do. And so they don't have their standout feature like their Notebook LM or their, this new image generator from ChatGPT. But it's a very good baseline model. And you have to remember it's baked into so many Google services that that is what I'm really excited about, if I'm being honest.
No, so I totally agree, right? This is where I think it's really powerful because ChatGPT is a consumer-facing model. Yes, they have a huge enterprise business and stuff like that as well. But I don't think Gemini is really going to hang its hat on, well, what are people using the Gemini app? Are they going to get blown away? I mean, Notebook LM, I think almost accidentally caught people off guard. I don't even think Google expected Notebook LM to blow up like that. I think Notebook LM was a phenomenal consumer-facing thing. I think that Google is, and I know that Google is like really thinking about that more for enterprise and everything else. But Jaeden, that last thing you said is huge, right? Which is people are already using Google's. For most of the planet, this is how AI is going to get rolled out. AI is going to get rolled out in the context of what they're already doing, right? It's going to get rolled out in how they're searching through emails and how they're creating things in spreadsheets and how all that sort of stuff, right? It's going to just be integrated. And that's how people are going to judge whether they want AI or not and whether they like AI or not. It's going to be very much rooted in, is this making my life better? So a lot of people are not going, I mean, yes, they're trying out ChatGPT, but very few people will go to Claude. Very few people will go to Grok. Very few people will click on the Gemini app or a Copilot app or something like that. They just want to sort of, most of their time is spent at work. And I think Google is going all in on, can we just take these products, which have billions of eyeballs, and actually just make that better? And I think that this is actually a really good play for Google because one of the Google's things is around search, right? I mean, is Google sort of, are they losing market share or Perplexity or anything like that? No, not really, not in any significant way yet, but search is going to change dramatically. And so I think what Google is thinking is, look, we are going to not go too crazy here, right? We are just going to continue to improve. And we already have the market share. We already have it. So I think they're thinking much more cautiously about not screwing it up. Jaeden, you remember you and I had Logan Kilpatrick on here a while ago, or a couple of weeks ago. And what he was saying was, I think, dead on, right? He's like, look, at Google, we sort of have a responsibility here. Like, we can't, it's not like Grok or OpenAI where they're like, hey, let's try this thing. Like, Google is essentially the front door to the internet for most of the world. They can't just, toss things up and hope that they work. And when that has happened, it's really blown up. So I think this is exactly the right approach. Is this something that's going to like, wow, everybody, you got to go and try this new thing on Gemini? No, I don't think so. But just the fact that it's going to work better, AI, in all the things you do every day, to me, that's the most significant element of all of this.
I think honestly, the big news here is like, if you go and look at their press release and they show you what they're doing on the benchmarks, they're doing really good on the benchmarks. And while people are like, well, it's incremental like improvements in like small areas, they don't have maybe all the features that I want to see with everything else. It doesn't really matter because, like you mentioned, they already have the user base. This is embedded into Google Search, into Gmail, into Google Docs, and everything else. And so at this point, if they could just make their model better, which evidently they've done here, I'm happier because I do use it when I'm in Google Docs and it's like quick to ask something or fill out an automatic email response in Gmail or help me sort something. Like, I actually genuinely use it. So I think that I'm happy their base model's getting better. Would I like to see more features like ChatGPT? Honestly, it's up to Google. Like, if Google wants to become a consumer-facing app where like every consumer is like, oh yeah, I'm going to go ask Gemini like independently, like they do with Grok or OpenAI or Claude or Perplexity, then yes, they will need to add some of those features. So it'll be I guess we'll be waiting on that to see. And I think that would be kind of the catalyst to really make this like a consumer tool that every consumer would recommend their friends use for stuff.
I agree. Yeah, no, that's the thing, right? It's just not their market. I mean, again, they're already making gazillions off search, off Gmail, off, cloud storage, all that sort of stuff. What they're trying to do is just improve the products that they already have. And that's what they should be doing. Again, it's not the stuff that's going to get the big headlines, but do you think Google care? I mean, Google thinks about stock price. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think yes, I think they definitely care when Sam Altman like drops something like on the eve of when they're about to drop something. I'm sure it just like absolutely ticks them off. And, and Altman is essentially like trolling them all the time and all that sort of stuff. But listen, if I'm an enterprise, this is what I want to see. I want to sort of, I don't want sort of like these big swings and stuff like that. So anyway, I think it's a huge release. It's a little more under the sort of like, under the surface. It's not something like, guys, go try this right now. But just know that all these tools that you're using, if you have been using Gemini or something like that, and you're like, it doesn't really work that well, keep using it. This is only getting better. Keep checking back here because we're going to keep you up to date on everything. So listen, if you have enjoyed this podcast, you know what I'm going to say. If you wouldn't mind leaving a rating review, it would be absolutely amazing. Otherwise, guys, we will catch you next time on AI.